Hi, this is Cheryl for Bayer's Pampered Stampers. Let's take a look at decorating folio number 5 by Photoplay. As you know, in a separate video, we put together the naked portfolio. So it's all assembled now, it's all white. And it's time to start decorating and bringing it to life. You've seen before where I like to use the paper collections that are available out there from Photoplay or Echo Park or Cartabella or Graphic 45. You can also cover the pages over with a solid color and just decorate it more. So in your stickers and your pocket inserts and that sort of thing, make more of an impact with it. You could leave key parts of it white. It's all up to you. There's no right or wrong with the folios. So do what you think is best for it. For this one, I chose this Let's Go Anywhere paper by Echo Park. If you're doing the shop hop this year, you'll recognize the paper. It's something that we got when we signed up. You can see it's got lots of cool reds and blacks, wood grains, that sort of thing. But it just makes for a really fun travel collection that can be used. I like that it has lots of, first of all, it has a sheet of stickers. These collections mostly do, but it also has lots of these cut aparts, which are kind of key in decorating, I think. They just make your life so much easier and take away some of the tedium of just having a plain page or a plain pattern paper page, if you know what I'm saying. So all of these kits are great. You just kind of need to know what your album is for and pick one out. Pick out the right color combo, whatever works for you. So we're gonna fast forward quite a bit, and here's how the album turned out, at least as I covered it. Again, there's no right or wrong. So you do you. You do something that makes you happy. So you can see first and foremost that I used this plaid paper to cover my entire outside, including these edges. Some people leave them plain. I just think it makes sense to go with the pattern and cover those over. I'm going to take this belly band off for a minute, but we'll talk about that nearer the end because that's a piece we haven't really dealt with before. So first I went and I covered it with the plaid paper, and then I grabbed these pieces from one of the cut apart sheets because I thought they were perfect for opening my album. I thought this was perfect for the back of my mini album. So again, you do what makes sense to you, but I thought that was a quick and easy way to get those covers ready to go and get the album ready to receive its memories. So on the inside, you've got some pretty straightforward covering. Remember, you're going to need a ruler to measure the pages. Make sure you measure each page. They should be all the same, but there are some variations I've noticed. So go ahead and measure. Make sure you have the right measurement. You're going to measure edge to edge on the page this way and this way. And then you're going to subtract 1/4 inch from either side. And that should be the size of your cut paper. Now, I don't cut for the whole album at first. I cut them piece by piece, and I always check it to make sure that I did cut right. I make mistakes all the time. I don't know about you, but again, you want this to be right. So take a minute and make sure you get the right size paper on there. For this, take the Scenic Route page. Remember, this has got a pocket at the top. The whole page extends over here to where you see this edge, my finger. A couple of things with this, you could absolutely cut a sheet of paper that took the entire pocket and then covered this little end, but it's another layer, and you're going to have a very layered album when you get your pictures and other memories in it. So I just used the cut apart first and foremost, and then I cut small strips and put on either side. That is perfectly fine, and it keeps your layers to a minimum in the book and just makes it easier overall. Your book's going to get pretty thick just with all the paper. This, again, was a separate piece. The pocket did not extend the entire page, so I wanted to cover this little leftover no man's land over here, and so I picked something that was fairly neutral to go in. You can see with these pages, I started to use some of the stickers as well. Don't worry when you see pocket pages. They're actually pretty simple to do. Let's go back to this one for a minute. This wasn't a worry at all because the pocket top comes to the top of the page. There's no little orphan spots. This one, we have this corner pocket, and so we've got to deal with that. I don't worry about trying to cut out just this little triangle of paper for the background sheet. I just cut the full size, so I measured here to here, subtracted my 1/4 of an inch, and used that full sheet. You're gonna just tuck it in the pocket. Because you're tucking in the pocket and stuff happens, I tend to keep the adhesives light right down here. I put a little bit, but not a lot, and that way it'll hold in place with no problem whatsoever. But you don't have to worry about the paper getting stuck halfway into the pocket and that sort of thing. So it's super easy to do. For this little triangle pocket, if you remember, we made this by cutting a square. So what I did was measure the side edges, and this was, I think, a 4-inch square, but don't quote me on that. I subtracted my 1/4 inch to get a 3 3/4 inch square, and then I cut it diagonally again, and that gave me the coverage for the pocket. So much easier than it seems. Don't stress about those things. I do tend to do these little spines too. I think it gives a more finished look. As I'm looking at the album now, I can see this first one I didn't do, and I might go back and fill that in because that kind of looks unfinished to me. But you do what you're comfortable with. You don't have to. Again, there's no rights or wrongs in doing these folios. So you can see I've got some pretty good patterns going. Sometimes when you put a photo or other memorabilia down on a really busy pattern like this, it kind of blends into the background. If that happens, just use your regular dies and cut a background shape, a star, a circle, a whatever. Stick it behind your photo, and then your photo will pop off that page again. So there's so many tips and tricks for decorating these things. It's really, really super easy. But do what makes sense to you. Make it work out. Again, just another plain page. I added the sticker just for fun. Here's our waterfall. Waterfalls are just super easy to cover because they're just flat surfaces. So what I did was alternate the papers. So I have the suitcases and the cars all the way through my waterfall. My cars are my back page here. While we're talking about this center page, it's a little bit of a terror to deal with, but don't worry about it. You can get through it. You've got this strip at the top. You've got a pocket. You've got all sorts of things going on here. So take it one piece at a time. I continued with my suitcase pattern from my waterfall and covered just this back part here. It's not even to the top of my pocket because I've got about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch of pocket above the waterfall. So I just finished in the size of the waterfall itself, covered to the edge, and I'm done with that. Then I cut a strip to go above it to get me to the top of my pocket, which is here. And then I cut a small strip up top to cover the above the pocket area. And what you can see here is when you have a deep pocket like that, you don't have to cover all the way to the bottom. Just give yourself half, 3/4 an inch additional, stick it in, and be done. Don't waste your paper. It's all good. Now you'll find that I finished the pages on this side pretty similar as the other. I used the black and white paper here, the really busy travel pattern here. I've got my black and my wood grain. By using the wood grain on the first corner pocket, it was something that wasn't too directional, so I could rotate it around and use the remaining piece of my square. Because remember, we cut it diagonally. So I could use that remaining piece of the square to fit in here. I didn't have to do any separate cutting. Worst comes to worst, you're going to have to do 2 separate squares to cover your 2 pockets, and then just cut the piece that you need. Because as you can see, they face different directions. One goes this way and one goes this way. Sorry, I don't have a lot of space to show these things, so it's kind of hard to get everything in camera view. We're back to another pocket page like we had at the very front. This has got that full top opening pocket in it. I used another big cut apart, added my strips of paper at the side to balance it off, and finally my little sheet of paper here to finish the page. So don't be worrying about using little strips and that sort of thing. It's just fine. Over here, similarly, I didn't cover this little ditch here. I kind of wish I had, so I will probably go back and finish it before this album makes its way to the shop. But again, whatever you're comfortable with, do that. I feel like it leaves it looking a little unfinished, but sometimes I get goofy about that stuff. Don't worry about it. There's no right or wrong in folios. Our last little edge here, we have the flap and the 3 pockets. And so again, it's pretty straightforward to cut. You could have mixed and matched patterns here. I was kind of running short on paper. I knew I didn't want one of those heavy patterns to go in the pockets because they're just small pieces. They're only about 3 inches wide and maybe 2.5 inches deep. So there's not a lot of the pattern that would show anyway. So I picked this kind of nondescript paper to go the entire length of this. And I simply measured and cut pieces to cover my panels. Again, when I've got my pockets here, I need to cut a little extra. I'm going to stand this up so you can see it. I extend a little ways into the pocket, but I don't think you can see way down in there. But what I've got, because this page I was running short on paper too, is the little header of the paper. So it says go anywhere under there. So it's got the paper collection name. It's okay. It doesn't show. It's all good. So whatever you need to do to cover things over and make it work, you do that. Same with this one. My pattern paper is just going to extend a little ways to the interior, but not all the way down the page. I don't need that coverage. And that sort of finishes that part. So it's a pretty straightforward album to cover. There's not a lot of hard parts. You just have to think about it and cover the strips. The belly band that came with it, this is one continuous piece of cardstock from edge to edge. I wasn't quite sure what to do with this, whether to cover it as one piece or to cover it as I did, which is separate little chunks for each section of the belly band. I ended up going with that just because I could use my scraps for pieces like this. Also because the folds get a little wonky when you'd have too many layers, and this would be 3 layers because you'd have your front coverage, the cardstock that makes up the belly band, and then the back side. That's a lot to fold. So my folds stay crisper with just the 1 layer, and that's what I chose to do. I kept it all the same paper. You don't have to do that. For closure, there's so many things that you could use. It just sort of ends with one side layering over the other. The road trip, was a sticker. From the sticker sheet, I just put a little bit of black cardstock behind it. The cardstock more for stability than anything else. You don't have to. Remember, if you use stickers on these and they extend over an edge, and I think this one, the backpack, don't forget to pack light, is a sticker. It goes over my edge, but it's not a problem because I took my powder tool and I deactivated the sticky on the back of the sticker. So that's how you handle that. Don't be afraid to let your stickers hang over the edges. They're kind of cute that way. They make perfect tabs and everything else. So for closure of the album, again, the belly band is the item that is supposed to keep this closed. They give you, I think, 1 magnet with this set to keep the belly band closed. I don't use the magnets. It's not that there's anything wrong with them. It's just that you don't tend to put the shiny magnet on the surface like I did the Velcro here. And so you bury it under the paper. Once you get a couple of layers of paper involved, it's hard for those magnets to make contact and do their job. So I much prefer the flat profile Velcro that Melissa sells. They're these little round sticky dots. You don't need to add adhesive. You're in good shape. Photoplay does recommend attaching your belly band. I didn't want to do that permanently, so I used the Velcro dots. As you can see back here, I used a couple of them to put the belly band in place. And so that's going to hold my belly band on my album so it won't tend to get lost. I just have to find them again. And I close this up and my mini album is good to go. So again, this one's pretty straightforward. You do what you like. Don't stress about what others have or have not done with their folios. This is yours. Enjoy it. And that sort of thing. I used a lot of the paper in this Let's Go Anywhere set. I used quite a few of the stickers throughout. There's still plenty of those left. I leave my albums decorated lightly because once I get the pictures and other memories in place, then I can fill in with these other things and make best use of it. Otherwise, you're struggling to fit something in, and why? So I've got this whole sheet of cut aparts that can be used yet. These are kind of the scraps that were left over of the other pages that I used. So you can see I made use of quite a lot of the pages. This is not a 6x6 album. It's 7 by 5.5. So you can really only get like 1 cut out of the 12 by 12 paper. You can fit multiple pages of the album on it, but you can't get more than that. So it's a little bit more of a challenge. Again, there's lots more cut aparts that I didn't use. This whole page. And then I have this whole page of cardstock that I didn't use at all. Remember, the cut aparts have a back side too, and there's no reason why you can't use the paper on the back side of these. You just have to decide that whether you want the cut apart or whether you want the paper. You can't, unfortunately, have both. Well, you can to a limited extent, but you know what I'm saying. So again, it's a fun project. Photoplay Folio number 5. pretty easy to cover. Have a good time with it. And make sure you stop in the shop. You'll be able to see this folio along with the others that I decorated, so you can decide maybe which folio you want to put together for your project and how you want to decorate it. Thanks for watching. Bye.